Anyway, well, hey, I'm with Milo, and well, hey, Milo, you showed up. You're a wonderfully talented accordionist. You picked up mine and made me weep because I don't even know where you were going with it.
It's a great box.
I like it a lot. What kind of... So you're an accordionist with Featherburn? Do you do anything else in the band?
Well, I'm the ringleader. Okay. You know, like, I mean, I write the songs and I build the website and I, mind the mailing list and, I mean, I've got great players that contribute a lot to the band's music. Creatively, it's a very collaborative, rehearsal process and refinement process of our music. It typically goes like I'll bring in a song sketch, something that I have an idea for, maybe a verse, maybe sometimes they're written, but then my bandmates, so the accordion is I don't know, it's probably more known as a folk instrument. I'd risk saying that, but but it's versatile too. Like, I'm not going to limit the accordion because I don't, the more time I spend on it, the more diversity I have with the instrument. You know what I mean? So I'm not pigeonholing the instrument. But anyway, most of the stuff that I come in with is kind of folk sounding. It might have a little bit of gypsy. It might have a little bit of punk. But then my bandmates, at least the three core guys that I've been working with the longest are rock players, and they're great rock players. So they take whatever song and they're like, oh, well, let's do it like this. And the next thing you know, we're the Rolling Stones with the accordion.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say at this very point in time in the episode, I'm gonna play Hiding in Love, because we may as well jump into it. You sent me that track the other day.
Our hearts intertwine to play and to stay, sorrow and joy, like the pink and the blue are just points in the frequency. I was a babe, I had the feeling that the mothers and the fathers, they were perfectly tuned. And before I knew blood and before I knew shame, I was riding on hips and adored by them daily, or breathing dirigible, for laughing and wailing. In the pink and the blue, they were one and the same, and all was hiding in love. When I was a boy, I had the feeling the garden was spirit and spoke through the dirt in the field. If in summer did land on her belly our breathing, in a wheat arrival sprout from the seedling, how she gifted our homes with her body and meaning. And under it all was the mystery of being alive, hiding with love. Alors, tout blanchi la campagne. C'est pas terrible, vois-tu, je sais que tu m'attends. J'irai par la forêt, j'irai par la montagne. Je ne puis demeurer ne vont des toi plus longtemps. Plus longtemps. On and on, all in one. Well, I have a feeling. Here, we have only our feeling, and it's perfectly tuned. With our hearts intertwined in body and meaning, to play and to stay in the mystery of being, in the sorrow and joy and the cuts and the healing, like the pink and the blue, they're just points in the frequency. Our hearts intertwined in body and meaning, our hearts intertwined in body and meaning, with our hearts intertwined in mystery and meaning, our hearts intertwined in body and meaning, with our hearts intertwined in mystery and meaning, our hearts intertwined in mystery and meaning, with our hearts intertwined in mystery and meaning, to play and to stay in the mystery of being, intertwined in mystery of being, our sorrow is joy in the cuts and the healing, the hearts and the joy, the cuts and the blue, in the sorrow and joy in the cuts and the healing. Blue are just points in the frequency.
And I was really awestruck with the way that, yeah, you're right. The correlation between accordion and folk sounds, it's kind of like the opening with the song was that kind of like, it's a very comfortable, it's almost comfort food with the accordion, where it's like it's got that Eastern European feel and it's got that kind of gypsy vibe to it, and that's what people know it for. But then as the song breaks, it becomes like the influence of Paul Simon and the kind of the definite the rock that's behind it, the guitar and everything meshing together is almost operatic in that sense of like Meatloaf for Old Queen, where the sound is so beautiful and so full by the middle of the song that like I was just entranced with it. And but the thing that threw me was that the opening to Hiding in Love was just accordion, and it was such a lonely sound, and then it really like that added more to it. I mean, I'm sure I'm reading into it. Believe me, I read a lot. I read into a lot of things, and but like, you know, how you open the song with just the accordion and that feel, and I was like, okay, where's this going? And then it just broke, and it was beautiful. So, and absolutely an excellent track.
Right on.
So,
right on.
But the Paul Simon influence, like you think about accordion in popular music, it's not entirely there, apart from obviously Weird Al, Google Bordello, and Paul Simon. So
yeah, the Decemberists are integrating it, and I showed you that playlist that you actually turned me on to Evelyn.
Yeah,
and I really dig that.
Yeah,
you know?
a friend of mine sent me that. He sent me that. He was a previous guest. Hi Dan. And but anyway, he sent that to me, and I was like, oh, that's really good. Yeah. Because there are some people that there's that thing where it does the folk roots. People like to explore that, and like I don't know if you've heard of Muddy Roots Festival down in Tennessee. I think I've talked about it like 8 times now. Anyway, but it's like, it's that punk folk, but it's not specifically folk punk, but it's like, it's the people that love music so much that they take the community of punk and they explore things like that. Like there have been vaudeville acts that are it's just string band, two guys in a string band. They're wearing the makeup and they're doing like a vaudeville act on stage. It's really weird. And when you see it live, it's like so beautiful. And, you know, like Those Poor Bastards, they do that really, really twisty folk thing where it's got such a solid base in folk, but at the same time, it's modernized and it feels right. So, like, you have that too, where it's not like I'm not specifically going back to listen to, you know, methodology. Music methodology, like when a musician loves the methodology so much that they base their entire album or career around it, you know, like where it's like, are you familiar with klezmer?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so like for anybody that's not familiar with klezmer, it was it's a Eastern Europe, it's a Jewish method of playing clarinet, and they had like there was a klez camp in New York. I don't know why I researched it, but I did. But it's that sound. It's a very familiar sound, and there was a pop song that used it was a recent, like Rihanna or somebody had the hook of the song was a really, really common klezmer chord. So like, and it's I don't know how to explain it because I really can't remember what song it was, but like it was that feel of it, and you're like, okay, well, like people will take things like that and they get into this thing where it's like that's what they want, and they want to show you how masterfully they can do the thing, and then they don't like adapt to modern life or any other music stylings. You know what I mean?
We sort of fall victim to our own aesthetic.
Yeah.
In some way, and we become like sort of contained by that.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
But at the same time, like you guys, even though I can feel your influences, I don't feel like a full album I'm gonna be like listening to not regurgitated, but you know, like I don't feel like I'm gonna be listening to a new Paul Simon album when I listen through Featherburn. I feel like you guys really make the effort to span out, and obviously with you having accordion as your key piece and all, do you have a floating lineup of musicians that come through?
It's gaining that. I have 3 core players that I work with, and they're in Pottsville, so I'm in Lancaster, so I travel an hour and a half up to I joke, like my justification is that I travel 30 minutes for each one of them. You know, and the bonus is that, you know, they have a studio there. They're great players, and they'll just play the music that I write. You know, I'm not fighting over any creative power in the band. They're there to help. They love making music, and they're agents. You know,
right?
And I think that's hard to come by because, like, I sat on Craigslist, you know, for a while, and I was like, hey, I play the accordion, I write these songs, and I have, like, you know, kind of a rough demo of some collaborations that I've been a part of in the past. I posted it, and I'm like, who wants to help? And a lot of people that are up there, they've got their own vision, and more power to them. You know, more power to everybody that's got, like, call it out and say, hey, this is what I'm making. Find your tribe, find your troop. But like, if someone's putting it out there and it's like, I don't know, maybe for my part, it was a little out of the box. Whatever happened, it was just crickets for the longest time.
Yeah.
There's nobody. Hey, I play the accordion. I want to make a rock band, and you know, no one was into it. So, you know, months later down the line, you know, some gent in Pottsville says, "Hey, you should come up," you know, and I was like, "Okay, I'll check it out." And they just turned out to be great players.
Yeah.
So now I'm working with a player in York, Ian Carroll. Do you know?
Oh yeah, he was a prior guest.
Yeah,
and a wonderful human being.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah,
and a very talented fiddler. So
yeah, he's teaching me a lot.
Yeah.
Just because I've never. He's a busker, you know, by trade. That's what he does. He just makes music and he goes out and he plays it, and he, like, every time I'm with him, he reminds me that he's just, like, opening up to the universe, putting out what he puts out, and trusting that everything is going to be all right, and it's going to support what he's doing that he loves.
Yeah, and I've spent an entire lifetime anxious and terrified of life, and to sit here with him and have him like, yeah, you definitely hit that nail on the head. For him to just throw it out there and know that it's gonna be okay. Yeah. I feel like I'd be shaking the entire time, like just too much. But so how long have you been doing Featherburn now?
Like 2.5 years now.
Yeah,
we've been at it, and it's been it's not a fast process. I've had, I probably came in there with 8 songs written that I thought that they could, would be useful for the vision of the band as I saw it, and that's opening up too, as we go along. But along the way, like I've been reading a lot. I read this book called The Live Music Method, and it's sort of like how to structure a show for like, it's almost like a playwriting class for a concert,
right?
Or a show. You build your set around sort of archetypal moments in a concert. You have your openers, and a lot of times what we're facing as a rock band is we're playing in, at least to start out, like beginning bands that are 1 year, 2 years old, maybe even more, maybe a lifetime. We are introducing ourselves to a new audience at a bar, or at a brew pub, or at a restaurant bar, and they're just eating their dinner. They're hanging out with their friends and they're chatting. So like, the recipe in this book says, okay, the first 2 numbers, you just have to play something kind of simple, kind of catchy, just to say, hey, we're friendly, we're alive. You introduce yourself in between the first 2 songs, and then you just get on with it. And then after that, the 3rd song, when like the audience trusts that, oh, these guys are I'm enjoying it. They're good. They got a good sound. Then you can play like one of your epic songs, like right. Something that will really, I don't know, your favorite. They call it the great song moment. So the 2 songs at the beginning are the intro moment. The song after that is the great song, and then after that you have to switch. And this is just according to Tom Jackson and his live music method. And I'm just taking it all in and using what I can to try and craft some art, that will be more meaningful. And it's a tad manipulative. But okay, once you have a form that then you can work to like make the form your own. So yeah. I wouldn't say
it's not manipulative. It's just more studied, because we have these like, growing up punk rock, doing everything like, oh, it's just whatever, throw it together, all this stuff. And it's like, all right, well, if every punk band that I knew just threw something together every time that they played, we wouldn't have Gwar. Like, just not to definitely, just to make the example of Gwar's stage method, in the conversation, if they were just playing some chords and going out and hammering through, like, we wouldn't have the long-standing, it's the 27th or 28th year that they've been together, even without Dave Brockie, may he rest in peace. But, they wouldn't have the time to develop that stage show and what they're doing, because it is more the vaudeville aspect of Gwar is what hits, and you can't think that they're just sitting in a van going from town to town saying, oh, well, we should make one of these, and they're getting in there and they're throwing something together in somebody's garage. And no, it's a well-polished, well-crafted idea, and it's done, and that's what hooks. And it's not wrong to do the research, especially in the sense that, art is exactly whatever it needs to be. And if your art needs to be well polished and well crafted, like, do your best. Like, that's the thing, is your end game is to give the best experience to your crowds and hold people's attention. And if you're going through if you open up with a 14-minute arpeggio of a long forgotten opera, people aren't going to pay attention. You got to really put the math and the time into that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Sorry for using the wrong word. I know
The math and the time.
no arpeggio. Aria. That's what I like. If you I was shooting for aria and I screwed up. But yeah, that's the thing is like to get somebody hooked that's just there. Because you're always gonna have the fans that come, and you're gonna have fans that are they have their expectations, they know what they want, and you could do anything you want and impress them. Mm-hmm. But that's what percentage of the crowd. It is trying to research and understand how the vibe is, and being able to in that moment make the decision that's going to be right, and it's just the educated decision. It's just the educated decision that you're making.
Sure, so, I appreciate that. That's good.
I think it's really cool, and definitely as a hobbyist musician, like I do a lot of research, but I don't pull the trigger on it. I'm such a lazy. I'm such a scaredy cat, but that's cool. Did you see to go into weird, obscure thoughts for the second, did you see March 4th when they came up to the Abbey?
No.
Okay. Do you know who that is, perchance? No. There's this... March 4th came by a couple of weeks ago, and they're everything you would expect from a parade on stage. And it's a real... their music is incredibly good. It's very jazz, funk, soul, weird.
It's a lot of brass.
It's a ton of brass, and it's got that very, very New Orleans vibe to it. Sure. And the stage show is huge, and it's in the Abbey, and the Abbey stage is about as big as this room is.
Okay.
And it's 15, 16 musicians just up there doing their thing, and I, of course, had to work and miss it. But no, I just wondered if you had been familiar with them, because they do the same thing. They have a big stage show, and it's the idea that this is a really hard one to get through. I'm not, and don't take any offense or anything like that. This is the thought process is going on right this very second. I promise. No. So, if you see a blues fest. Right, you go to a blues fest and you know what you're expecting, and you're expecting it's that scene from Ghost World where some really beautiful Delta musician is opening for a band called Blues Hammer, and Blues Hammer is the greatest thing because they're catchy, and they take every pastiche and they make it the thing. Well, I was gonna say, I just lost my train of thought now. So. Everybody was there to see Blues Hammer, and then there was one guy there to see the Delta Bluesman that was opening, and he was big in 1938 or whatever it was. But the question that I was going to posit to you is, what part of that matter? What part of that matters more to you? Was it having the moment so big and so huge, or is it having that one guy really, really satisfied for the sake of your art? I know it's a hard question to swallow at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. If I had to make a call between the two, if I wasn't allowed to say
a little above.
If you were no, I would probably have to say the crowd, the bigger crowd. And maybe that's a bit of betrayal to that gent who is hardcore, who's diehard. I guess my end game for the whole project, aside from creating something that's sustainable, and building a community of supporters as well as, lovers, is to create as much transformation as possible, to help us grow humanity, and make the best art for the most people that we possibly can.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, and believe me, I'm not judging either way. I got trapped in the thought, and I had to put it out.
Yeah, sure.
But no, I really do think that's a good thing, because when you do that, you do find people that are definitely just there, but you do find people that are music fans, and maybe they haven't had doors open for them yet. And when you have something that is grand and appealing, they're gonna take up and dig. They're gonna take up their shovels, and they're gonna dig, and they are gonna find those they're gonna explore veins and stuff like that. So it is a really positive I mean, even that idea, whether anybody sitting here thinks it's selling out or whatever, but you can all you want. But if one idea doesn't pop for somebody, then they're never gonna look down the hallway again. But that's a hallway filled with doors that lead to all the myriad of music and its expansive horizons.
Yeah.
So it's really beautiful. So, but yeah, I swear I wasn't calling you out or trying to make you. I wasn't trying to make you uncomfortable or anything like that. I feel like you might have had a few, like you might have had a few cups of coffee this morning. Like you're kind of hyper and terrified.
No,
I'm just a dude. Like, so
it's all good. I mean, I feel like I'm finding my way. This is the second band that I've ever been a part of.
Yeah. Well, go. Yeah. Like I was gonna say, what is your history of music?
Well, I studied voice in college. I went to Edinburgh University of Pennsylvania.
Okay,
so it's my hometown, and I took it up late in college. I had a transformative experience up in the attic of my college. Like not frat house, my roommates. The place where the dishes are in the. The tub is a mess, and they, I was always the sensitive one, and they beamed me with Nerf guns, and I ran off one night, and I had this, I was huddled away, and it was a little bit of, it was a little drug induced, but I was upstairs hiding away, and I went through my housemate's CD collection, and I saw Peter Gabriel's live album.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I looked down at the bottom, and it said Biko, and I had this flashback to when I was a little boy, and we were turning up the driveway, and I was like up on the windowsill in the back of my family's like Chrysler or whatever it was, and we're pulling up, and that drum beat, boom boom boom. And this melody, just this epic song to me. And I just remember I had a flashback of the experience of hearing this song and just being real inspired by the music I had. And Peter Gabriel sings, Biko, 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 because Biko. And he's talking about a South African freedom fighter, Stephen Biko, who got killed in prison because he was fighting apartheid, and it was just like the structure of the society in the time didn't want to change, and anybody who's working to change equalize things gets bashed in the head until they're dead. But anyway, like fast forward 15 years or 10 years, between 10 and 15, and I'm in college, and I'm up and I hear this melody again, and Peter Gabriel comes on with the drum beat, boom, 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 and he's like, "This is for Stephen Biko," and the crowd goes, "Ah!" And I'm like, "Oh, he's dedicating his music to something else, someone else, something that's greater than him," And I was just like, "Oh my God!" He sings the song, and I sort of get the picture of this person who sacrificed themselves, or put themselves in harm's way, went to put their bodies on the line to go in and fight against something that they, believed was wrong, to create a better world.
Yeah.
And it floored me. I want to make music. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because I just the power of the medium just captured me. So I tried out, I subsequently failed out of college that semester because I was partying too much. But I picked up the guitar, and I worked at a couple of jobs so I could pay for my way into another semester, because they cut off my student loans because I wasn't matriculating. So long story short, I went back into school and studied voice and always played guitar, but I was always in all kinds of plays. So I'm kind of a jack. I got on stage to be in lots of plays as well. So my musical background, comes originally from that experience. But long story short is I've done a lot of theater too, and building devised work, which is sort of you get into a room with 6 other people who can play instruments, sing, dance a little bit and act, and you say, okay, we're going to make a piece based on this English folk tale. And you say, what do I see? And you're like, oh, I see this guy walking in. And your friends get up and they're like, yeah, let's do it. And let's make it happen. You just get up and put your bodies up in the stage space where you're creating,
right.
and you create like moments. What do you see? I see this. Let's do it. So you create like 20 of these. You decide which ones you like best, which ones are the most powerful. You create transitions between them. And polish that, and you have yourself a theater piece that's like it's organic. It's got all kinds of disciplines in it. It's gritty. And we got paid gas money after winning the award.
Yeah.
But so that's like sort of open box, like breaking open, creating what's there, and with your teammates that are there, and what your visions are, and sort of allowing space for intuition to plant you in places and steer you a little bit is sort of like the theatrical part of where I'm coming from, to sort of imbue it into the band.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Now, that was a very beautiful explanation of what that is, because I had no idea, and it is kind of like like it is almost that jazz process of like, all right, well, the intuition is the terrifying part I feel like for most people, because like, when you get a gut feeling, especially like musically, if you're driving music and you're like, okay, well, this feels good, let's go with it. It's like that it's a fine line, that's the fine line that I would have such a problem breaking with creating that kind of thing.
Meaning breaking from a groove?
Yeah, the anxiety of like, well, it was a poor decision, and everybody thought it was good at the moment, and then by the time that 40 minutes worth of piece is done, you're like, no, John, that was a terrible decision that you made. You shouldn't have gone with that. No, and it it just changes the whole vibe.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, but
yeah,
that's the terror of it. And so like you're in plays, you studied voice, and then you started like, and you made like pieces for plays then?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the art that I made before, like, sort of my landing in Lancaster, it was in DC, and it was sort of multidisciplinary, like interdisciplinary theatrical work with a lot of music. I picked up the accordion. I was asked to write music for like a politically bent tent revival style of this old German play called Mother Courage and Her Children. And Bertolt Brecht is the author, and he was making this, like, in the 50s, he was making this, he sort of transformed theater in the way that he broke the fourth wall, so to speak. The fourth, three walls, meaning like, there's the walls behind you and to the side, and then there's an invisible wall in between you and the audience, right? So what he did for the first time, and in his days, he has these actors that are acting passionately in the play, right? They're the character, and then they stop and walk out to the audience and say, "What do you think I should do here?"
Yeah.
Just speaking, not like something that's written. You know what I mean? They drop the character. They're the actor now, and they're like, can you imagine going through this shit right now? And then they talk to them. The audience can interact with it, and he's like, okay, I hear you. And then that person will step right back into their, persona, into their character body, whatever it is, and then move without a hitch and just like passionately go for it. So there's this sense of this alienation to the world. They called it the A effect. And there's a German word that's like better. It describes it more, but basically it's like, it sets you apart from that world. So as the audience, as a spectator is even watching themselves watch the actor. And it's a more meta picture of like, what's the social statement that we're making here? This actor is going through this process with me. And it was just one break that was made to transform theater. But anyway,
Yeah, no, that's really powerful, because I didn't realize where that idea had come from, because you excuse me. Until then, did you ever watch Barton Fink?
Yeah, I did.
So when Barton Fink opens, he's he just wants the right place for the fishmonger. He wants the right place for the trash guy, right? He wants to keep it with the people of the time, and that is the thing that we'd already suffered. I mean, everybody at that point, that's the end of the Second World War. So they still have this high-minded regency to theater, and it's not for the common man. And when you find a way like that to really engage with your crowd, that's phenomenal. And I didn't realize that practice was so young, honestly. Because some of the comic books that I read, Deadpool, he does the same thing, where it's you're in it. What is the big draw of Deadpool? Well, the big draw of Deadpool is you're in it. It's it's one of those things where and to have theater like that where I can't remember the name of it. I tried out for something, but that was the whole thing. The characters walked through the crowd. It was a very it was supposed to be a 35-person crowd all spread out, and we're doing the play, and then we're talking with people. We're sitting down next to people and doing the whole thing, and it's really interesting, and that idea does build on that kind of stuff. That's really phenomenal.
I mean, I think soliloquies are age old. You know what I mean? Shakespeare was having his characters, the action pause, or everybody leaves the room and then the actor is reciting their the character's thoughts. The character is speaking to the audience. I'm not gonna split hairs and everything, but it was a convention that was broken when you just drop everything, what I mean? And I think that method that he was using, I don't think Brecht would have said this is the only way to do it. No. He was breaking a convention to wake people up that he saw was possible. I think if he were alive today, and granted, I'm not, I don't, people.
No, you're good.
There are doctorates and doctorates upon Brecht, scholars and analysts, and they would say, they might say, Milo, you're an idiot. But I would risk saying that Brecht would say, what is it now? It's different now. You got to find another way to break it open, to alienate, to create that effect where the audience is woken up and brought into the moment as a participant, analyst, activist, whatever it calls for in the moment, to get that participation. And you have to find the 2017 way to do it now.
Well, yeah, and that's how it is with definitely. It's one of those things where, one thing works and it's great, and you can watch the ebb and flow of this Sondheim and the musicals, and you see how that goes, and you realize after a while people are going to go to it for the sake of ritual or the sake of it's the night out. Okay, but what's gonna grab somebody and really break them from the age-old molds or the age-old traditions of, we do it this way and that's what we do. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it happened in Schenectady. Synecdoche, New York. Did you ever watch that film with Philip Seymour Hoffman? Yeah. It was the exploration. I felt in the end, after I made my way through it, it's a beautiful film. But I felt they were really exploring that, where life just, how do we regain control of the art when we don't want to gain control of the art at all?
Right. Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing. But I was gonna say, and the scholarly aspect of everything. When I sit here, I'm sitting here. Nothing's live, of course. It's all audio. But your passion for it is what matters most. You got super into it. I don't know, talk away. That's
sure,
wonderful.
Sure.
Because I would have never known that information otherwise. So, but what got you into your first musical project?
We're tracking back. We're going where we left off. Yeah. Okay, so I was petitioned to write music for a piece of Brecht's, and a company in DC, Dog and Pony DC. They're wonderful activists, theater activists, making audience participatory, transformational pieces. And this was one of their, I think it was like their third or fourth production, and just they've grown since and really blossomed. The director asked me to write gypsy punk music for the piece, and I didn't know what gypsy punk music was, so I just said, "Oh yeah, I'll do it, but you gotta show me what you mean." So she turned me on to Gogo Bordello. She turned me on to the Decemberists, Tom Waits, Beirut.
Never heard of them. That sounds great.
So Tom Waits, of course, is he's got his gritty, sensibility, and that's very much a part of gypsy. I think grit is in the vocabulary. The Eastern European thing is happening, and punk, meaning shouts of moxie, something primal that we're tapping into, that's railing against or railing for something. So I listened to these songs, and one thing I noticed, especially in the Gogo Bordello stuff, is there were a lot of songs that were just 2 chords or maybe 3, and they were as far as musical form goes, they were verse chorus, nothing else. Mm-hmm. So I didn't need to be great at it.
Yeah.
I could write songs that were 3 chords or 4 chords and had verse chorus, shout, shout, shout.
Yeah.
And that it did the deal. And my director wanted accordion in it, and I didn't play accordion, and no, they searched far and wide and found 2 players, one pianist who could pick it up, and then another guy who was really good, but he couldn't do all the gigs. So the play was great. I mean, I had a transformational experience, and I know that the music was a big part of it. Was really intertwined. It was very just well embedded into the piece. It was part of it. It wasn't. It was just a good integration, a good synthesis of music. And it wasn't a musical per se, but we had a rock band on stage, and after the piece closed, the band we liked playing together, so we decided we'll just keep playing together. But the accordionists were all busy. They were like, "Oh, I got a gig, man. I can't be a part of this." So I was like, "Oh, well, I'll play the accordion." So my dad had one sitting, he's a flea market, collector guy. And I was like, "Dad, I need the accordion." He wouldn't give it to me before because he was like, no, you're not going to play it. But I did. So I picked it up and learned it, the basics for my, first band. And since I played the accordion, I got word of an audition in New York, this play Warhorse. I had never heard of it. It was a young adult reader, a short novel, and it was this. It's funny. It reminds me of the second to last podcast that you put up with the World War I reenactor guy.
Yeah.
It was a story. Warhorse was a story of World War I told through the eyes of a horse.
Oh wow!
And the horse, just actually wasn't oh,
yeah.
But you got, it was almost like someone was writing a journal. This person was kind to me, that person was not kind to me. And it was basically it was a story about man's capacity to destroy nature for his own craze, madness of gain and and what happened was these amazing puppeteers from South Africa that were working with the actual native Africans during apartheid, because and melding and taking from the actual African art and making these puppets, had been working a lifetime to create theater pieces. Their first piece with a life-size puppet was a story about an African king who gifted another African king with a giraffe for like some, either his birthday or a ceremony. And it was about the story of they couldn't transport this thing, so they had to walk it across the continent. And I didn't see the piece, but like it sounds like, oh wow, what? And they, it takes like 4 puppeteers to work this giant grand thing, and they're artists, craftsmen, and they study. So the build or the evolution of this art form that they're creating has them seeking out these stories that can contain, that can host their art form. So they create a theater piece based on this novel, and they bring to life these exquisite puppet horses. And I know it like dispel your any notions of like, oh, Wilbur or whatever. It's not the Muppets. It's 3 puppeteers who you can see operating this. Almost, it was a little bit skeletal, but very much mobile, and very much. And they train these puppeteers, or even dancers or actors who have a talent, to make this puppet synchronize their movements so they can operate this puppet to behave like a horse. And they study, horse movements, horse behavior. And the result is that they just have this exquisite art form on stage that is just entrancing to watch. They're called Handspring Puppet Company. So they put this piece up in England, and it hits, and it runs for 10 years at the National Theatre of Great Britain, and it's a what do they call it? A national treasure? This piece, and they have another production of it, different cast, same piece, come up in New York City, and then they're mounting for a tour. So I get word, because the musical component involves these folk songs and accordion. So I get word of this audition. Hey, there's this piece. They're looking for someone who can play accordion, sing, and act. And I was like, well, send me the information. And I wrote the casting director. And before that, I'd just been making like devised pieces. Like there was an occasional audition, but it was more like, okay, this is what I'm making, homegrown art, like I'm cooking it with my colleagues, but I'll go try out for this one. And little did I know that they were having trouble finding someone that could sing and play accordion and act like. And the fellow who wrote the music, who was kind of like the Arlo Guthrie of England, his name is John Tams, and when they expressed like difficulty in finding the right person for this job, he said, look, find the singer that you want, and then you can find somebody else that plays accordion. So I got my foot in the door because I played the accordion. Couldn't play it well enough, but I think my voice, it has a specific quality to it that they liked, and I could act, and I could like learn the accordion well enough that if there was an emergency, that D-Day happened, the accordionist that I worked with goes out sick, and the understudy goes out, I could like pass. And that's what like got me this part. So I traveled the country playing the musical narrator. I don't know if most people are familiar with the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer Christmas special. Oh, yeah. Burl Ives comes out and he's like, blah, 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 blah. And then he goes away for like 10 minutes, and then you see him pop up again. That was like my part in this show. I was the fellow who, the lights went down, the curtain went up, the spotlight in the center goes up, and there's this guy who walks out, smiles at the audience, sort of like greets them non-verbally, opens up this book, and then the world comes out of it, and then I sing this I don't know, it's supposed to be like angelic folk tenor thing, and it was just I just happened to be the right guy for the time. So I went around the country and around the world and did this, and then got off the boat, and now I'm like a union actor, so I can't work I can't sign on for any pieces that don't support actors in the way that a union mandates. They got to pay a certain wage, they got to pay benefits, they got to,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So if like, I don't know, I've auditioned since and not gotten any part like that. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, I still got to create. So I was like, well, I'm gonna form a band.
That's awesome. I'm just mesmerized. Honestly, like, yeah, you were just the right guy at the right moment, and it's just like I feel like you're. I don't want to say stumblebum's mean, but not like that. But like you just kind of kick over the right pots in the garden, and suddenly it's you're blooming a brand new harvest. Like it's amazing. Like to me, I'm like, that's insane. Like you're.
It was amazing to me too. Like,
yeah. That's awesome. I was gonna say, I have no idea how unions work when it comes to creative unions, and so you couldn't like just take on other jobs or other parts and all that stuff.
Not like I was before,
Okay.
Like I'm just not. If I want to stay in the union and be eligible to, like there are benefits of being in it. Like you get to get a slot. You're guaranteed a slot to audition for a show like that again. Whereas the only reason that I was able to is because I had this like teeny niche. I just filled in all the check boxes of what they were looking for. You know what I mean? If you're not that guy, then you don't even get in the door. You know what I mean?
Right.
So now I can get into all the doors just by law. And it's up to me to, be awesome. And I'm sure I'll in the course of my lifetime I will have another equity role. It's not a big deal. It's kind of a big deal because I wish I could get paid to make theater more. You know what I mean? That would be great. But I think the cosmos is steering me right now to create music in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and create this rabble-rousing, ruckus-making, hopefully transformation-inducing music.
It's all that much more beautiful now that I understand where you're coming from, because you definitely have it definitely has that quality of like musical theater, or not exactly musical theater, but it does have that theatrical aspect of it. And so how'd you end up in Lancaster? So after you you float around the world, and then you decided people with beards who take up space on the highway are just the people you want to be around.
Not at all. I mean, I have a partner and who's been with me and supporting me for a decade and more. Who is from the Lancaster area. Her family is in Quarryville, which is like south of 30 minutes south of Lancaster, and she's got a nephew who I just kind of like synced up with. And I think part of it was like I like at my age I was like I didn't have like my own children, so, and I'm a playful fellow. I'm good with kids. I've taught music, to elementary school for a long while. And I think one of the differences is like me just being who I am. I was always ready to get down on the ground with this kid, like, and just dig in with whatever we were doing, and then he would always come crawling to me. And then what I noticed was that he would always come over to me, and then I'd pop him up on my shoulder and he would get this good view. So he'd come over even more because he knew that I'd pop him. All the other people would put them on their hips. And I would put him up on my shoulder and he would just like view. And that was like the start of this relationship. So now there's this 9-year-old boy, fast forward 9 years, and we're just like, he's the most treasured thing that I have in my life. And I'm not his dad, but I'm a male figure in his life that's prominent, and trying to just help help someone grow. And I think what happened was like our souls made a deal before we were born, You know, like, hey, you're gonna be this old, and we're gonna tag up at this point in our lives, and I'll be the little kid and you'll be the adult, and you know, it's like the soul's just, I don't know. I mean, it's metaphysical. There's no proof to any of this shit.
Yeah, no, that could be true. It might not. I don't know. I was gonna say, because my wife is most assuredly the other half of me. Like she is. Yeah. She's the counterbalance of me. She's the because I'm definitely the childish side. I'm definitely the more impulsive side. She's regulated, got life together, doesn't, make terrible mistakes. So that's really that is really interesting. And the other thought was that I did want to bring up is you're about what, 34, 33?
I'm 42.
No.
Come on.
No way. No, you got no. I think your positive attitude has just not aged you whatsoever. Like,
you read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
Yeah.
42. Like, I've been treasuring. This is my year of all years. After this, it's like
everything that you say this year is exactly the answer to life.
Yes.
100%. So, that's really cool. That's really cool though, because you find people like yourself that are just, you end up in this part of Pennsylvania where we're a beautiful state end to end, and down here we're just a little microcosm of gigantic creativity and beauty, and it's where like you think about DC and you think about their established, obviously their theater is established, their whole lifetime is established, and it's just like you look at Lancaster and York and Harrisburg and like, well, we finally found a good vision. I think the eventuality is like everybody's magnetizing towards this part of the state right now because we're not mega city. No part of this is mega city, not even Harrisburg.
Yeah.
And it's got that small town feel, and with art being the driver, it's really, opening a lot of people's eyes to, hey, we don't need to dig for coal to feel happy with our lives. Let's just obviously pick up an accordion and take some chances and see where it goes.
And now, like, the state of the music industry is very toppled, and anyone who's read a book about it knows that, it's not what it used to be in the sense of like the gatekeepers of radio station or the gatekeepers of production company have to sign a deal, and they're recently signed band. It's like all of that stuff is in our hands right now. If you have the will to study it and check off the boxes and learn what you need to learn digitally, most of all, digitally, and hire out for the things that you're just not capable of, you can be your own record company, and you can build your project from the ground up, and you don't need anybody else. Of course, you need to be good, in order to create opportunities for yourself, and you need to be driven in order to reach out and to like get involved in your community and just get off your ass and work.
Yeah.
But it's no longer like what it used to be. So taking chances and picking up your accordion is not necessarily like, there's this dream I have, and if only I can get noticed. Fuck that. It's more like a long, steady haul now of creating great work and being diligent about your craft, and then about building the other blocks, like like your website, like your mailing list, like your YouTube channel with content, and like you know this a little, like building your own podcast and how it's like this long, slow growth.
Oh yeah, and it's one of those things that you're right. It takes the power out of anyone's hands but mine, and to correlate that with like that's that Eastern European thing where it's like, nobody cares why you aren't successful. Why are you stopping yourself? It's that's the why are you not driving? Why are you not driving yourself further? And it's like, that was the thing with this was when I started my last one. It was like, I listen to them all the time. I really enjoy them. I can just give it a try, and that was it. And it was like, well, I hit every pitfall.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, what am I gonna do? Hide under the blankets and worry about the pitfalls, or am I just gonna keep going?
Yeah.
And everyone has that capability now, especially with as you said, yeah, the gates are open. It's in your hands. You know, you can go whichever route you want. You can go traditional. You can go underground. You can host all your stuff on Bandcamp. But the thing is, you got to go out and you got to be active, and you gotta push, and you can't have any expectations. That's the other thing, is you can't let your expectations murder whatever it is you're putting out, or murder your creative soul, because failures happen, but new projects do too.
Yeah, there are no promises.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's so. Are you teaching now as well, or
You know,
what do you do for a regular gig?
Right. Yeah. I'm teaching a public speaking class at Millersville University right now.
Wow.
Because there's a need, like everyone that goes through that school has to take fundamentals of speech.
Oh, wow.
So, thousands of students every semester,
That's cool.
Have to take that course. And I believe in the medium, I mean, I think it might be one of those courses that the professors are like, I got to teach fundamentals of speech again. And I'm coming around the curve of teaching this class, and like getting my noggin, wrapping my head around the material and around the computer system that they use to like as an agent for their, like the educational technology, so it comes with its challenges, but I believe in the medium of speech and being able to organize your ideas and articulate your message and make your message glow and make your message like important and relevant and a gift to your audience. So like when I'm teaching this course, I may be like somewhat inexperienced at it right now, but I feel like eventually I'm going to be a great public speaking teacher, because once I've some experience under my belt teaching the class, and I've overcome like the elements that I'm talking about with regard to the learning curve, I think I'm fired up about teaching or helping students communicate what they're passionate about. So I mean, I feel lucky to be put on the roster to teach the class. It's been a challenge this year, but I'm getting it.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you with that. That's really cool though, because I think with the way that the world is now, like you and I can sit here and have a conversation that's comfortable, and we both managed to calm down, which is exciting, because I just took my meds. But it does get to be one of those things where you don't really think about. You could think about the most well-written, eloquent 40 paragraphs that are going on a website. Nobody wants to take time to read that. But if you have the skill of standing in front of people and speaking, or having eloquence in normal conversation, and having attentiveness and attenuating to the circumstance, and if you have something to prove to somebody, you're not giving them 1,000 antithetical reasons around what you want them to do or what you want them to know. You're giving them the exact content that they need for the situation. I think it's an incredibly important skill.
Yeah,
absolutely, because we communicate by text now. My phone actually rings less than I get message alerts. So I think there's a lot of people that don't take it as seriously. Not seriously, but they don't take it to heart as much as they should. That if you're stumbling through thoughts, and you can't exercise the muscles that'll get you snapped into shape so that you can push out the things that are not necessary, and here's the statement I need to make, and I throw it out, and you're not adding to it. Like, it's a very important skill.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that, like, it's an old art. I mean, it's a really old art form.
Absolutely.
I was gonna say I have Dale Carnegie books up there, but that's not who I'm thinking of. But like, yeah, the Vocal Advantage is up there, and there's that box set next to it is all Small Talk for Parties, and it's a book set that came out in like 63 or 64. And the only reason I have it is because I'm not very good in social situations. But to have that, I understand it a little more. Like I have to be I have to be the aliens that are watching what's his name from Slaughterhouse-5 when he's sitting on his Sears furniture most times, and like not in a better way, but like just in a I don't understand what I'm doing here kind of way. So like having little things like that really helps me as an adult man.
Yeah, sort of.
It just
ground you a little bit in normal behavior.
Yeah. Yeah, people don't need to know my theory on the pyramids. Like, yeah, John, just pay attention to it. Like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Especially at, like, church. So, but it gets to be one of those things. That's awesome, though, that you're still, you are active and you are, like, just so passionate about everything that you do. Like, you're a really excitable human being, and that's why I never would have made the assumption that you're 42 is because like you're just man, you're there.
Okay, cool. I'm glad to be here.
You're as cool. You're as level-headed and hyperactive as you could get.
Right
that's
on.
That's awesome. And so I was so it was 10 years ago you ended up in the Lancaster area?
No, two and a half,
two
almost.
And a half,
because I was in DC making work, and then I got a part on that tour, and I was going for 2.5 years on that, just traveling the country. It was great. Great opportunity. I learned a lot though, like talk about behavior and just like, I don't know, it's another story, but just going through the transformation of being in that environment where you're like part of this group traveling around, and it's its own thing. Like I could write a book about it. Maybe I will someday, but probably not.
Yeah. I think you should, because there are a lot of people on tour vans with each other for too many days out of the year, and there are easy targets, traps, and pitfalls that people set out for each other, and it's like you're a collective tribe, and these are you're on your war wagon together. Make it easier. Just stop being in each other's way.
Yeah.
Because I travel alone. Yeah, like I drive trucks, so I'm out on the road all alone. If I get upset with me, there's nothing for me to do. Just go to bed. Yeah. So, is there anything else you wanted to bring up? Very I don't mean to.
You mean like before the end of the podcast?
Yeah, not to truncate our experience together.
Oh, well,
yeah, where else did you want to go? You lead the conversation for a second.
I think the thing that I was gonna, we kind of bring something up and then go off and then come back to it and go off, and I know you're gonna play this Hiding in Love, and I was just telling you about my nephew, who was climbing up on my shoulders, and basically the song is like me through him, or him through me. I talk about. The first verse says, when I was a babe, I had a feeling that the mothers and the fathers, they were perfectly tuned. And before I knew blood and before I knew shame, I was riding on hips.
Yeah.
Adored by them daily, a breathing dirigible, meaning like he's floating on my shoulder, Yeah. So all that song is just him. And then like second verse is, when I was a boy, I had a feeling the garden was spirit and spoke through the dirt in the fields. And when I was a boy, we had a garden, and we, go out in the summertime and plant. And before I left for the tour, my nephew got like passionately into, or at least while I was out on tour, just passionate about produce. Of all things, I have this picture of him like falling asleep with a melon in his arms, as opposed to a teddy bear or anything like that. It's just like, what a quirky blessing to like have someone in your life who you can like share a passion for produce for. So, I talk about the garden, and then the third verse is I ripped off from a Victor Hugo poem. Du monde de l'aube à l'eau blanchit la campagne. Tomorrow at dawn, when the earth is white, I will come to you. I don't know the actual translation. I'm just speaking the words and like knowing the translation, like from what I took it from.
Okay,
and he talks about because I know you're thinking of me, and I can't bear to be away from you any longer. And this is like me on tour thinking about this little boy. I will travel through the forest. I will travel through the mountains, because I can't be away from you any longer. And that's like part of like why I'm in Lancaster. Like my partner Megan, we've worked at distance, we've worked at, you know, in the same proximity before. Our relationship is like, she's great in the sense that we can like tailor to the situation, you know, but this, I feel like this boy, that I needed him and he needed me, you know what I mean? So that's the, you know, the third verse in the poem was just about how I need to get back, you know, in proximity with that boy. And that's like ultimately the in literary terms, the inciting incident, you know, that is for me to be here right now. But, you know, of course I'm just creating, you know.
Yeah. So just out of curiosity, because I can't. I'll cut it out anyway. So my wife and I are planning on having our first now, and we finally got into a situation where we could do that.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Don't tell anybody it's a secret. I will 100% cut it out of this episode.
Right.
But I wanted to go with that thought. Was like, what is like when you were young? Did you have a large family? Let's start with this. Where is that? Is Edinburgh out in the Highlands?
Edinburgh is just south of Lake Erie.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you're near Newcastle, right? Sorta, not really.
Yeah, it's like
you're on the top side of 80.
An hour and a half or something from Newcastle, or an hour from Newcastle.
Oh, okay.
You know.
So like, you guys, did you grow up in a situation where you had like that whole "it takes a village" thing, where your connection with family is like, yeah, you definitely have that, like aunts and uncles that are, you know, just as important as your parents, and cousins that are, you may as well be your brothers and sisters, and all that kind of stuff, or.
Well, I was definitely part of like a neighborhood. In the road I grew up on is still made of dirt. When I say neighborhood, it's a stretch. You know, like
right.
You know, my next friend over. Well, I mean, I had a guy next door that I played with too, a kid next door. But my closest best friend was a mile down the road, and we would just walk a mile to get to each other. You know.
Yeah.
And that was very much. Tribal, not tribal as in, you know, stomping on the ground, tribal or
no.
But it takes a village, you know, to raise a child. Like his mom spanked me, you know, like, and you know, I deserved it, you know.
Yeah.
And we sort of like, that was a community of people, and it was just I think it was a different day and age, you know, like where it was necessary and it was needed, and it was just something that you hardly even thought about. Like, of course, like, yeah, spank my kid if he's a jerk. Yeah. You know, like, help me raise my kid. And I'll be responsible for yours, you know. And we fed each other and, you know, that kind of thing. So, like, my personal family was a little bit despairing. Not that's the wrong word. It was just like I had steps. And, you know, I had a stepmom and a stepdad. My father was in Buffalo, and my mom, you know, and I had stepsisters, and, you know, I have a half brother, and, you know, so it was like it was never like the same, like one nuclear family in the traditional sense, but it was all very enriching. You know, I never felt like unloved. I always felt lucky, and I still feel lucky to this day that I had like two great father figures, you know, and just blessed with, you know, family that wasn't just that nuclear thing, because I still have great love for each of my, you know, like family settings. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, I just wonder, because your love for your nephew comes out so well, and yeah, it just seems like it's I definitely come from it at a curious point, because it's not that's not how I grew up. Yeah. And I'm always in admiration of people that have that kind of pleasure. Sure. Like, it's just, I don't even know if it's that pleasurable. It seems like a headache after a while, but like, I've never had that. Yeah. I think it's wonderful though. You know, I think it's great that you have that kind of support system and that kind of just happiness and excitement and joy from that. You know? Yeah. It's beautiful. Definitely.
Like, so. And totally blessed me, you know, like in the cosmic sense, you know, just greatness coming into my life from, you know, the gift, you know, like of just having someone, you know, some people in your life that you adore and and
get along with.
Yeah.
See, that's the. I was gonna say that's the other thing. You're coming in as the you're coming in as somebody's dude, and like
Yeah.
for you to be accepted into a family, like that's great. You know, like I have that here. Like my wife's family has become my family. Like I stopped being Katie's husband within 6 months of us getting married. I'm just John. Like I'm just John now.
Yeah,
and it's yeah, like to have that rapport with a family and to feel that kind of thing, it's awesome. It's the best thing in the entire world. I totally get it now. So, but yeah, it's just you're a beautiful human being. I like, I'm so enamored with your outlook and your positivity, your quality of creativity, your craftsmanship. Like, yeah, A Hiding Love is beautiful. It was wonderfully produced and altogether just great. So
Thank you.
I was gonna say, and I'm not doing the Henry Rollins thing of sitting on a talk show with you, fluffing you up. So it's an old joke. Nobody's gonna get it. But no, I like sincerely, it's one of those things where it may not be exactly what you're looking for genre wise. If you're like one of those folks that kind of has a static opinion on music, definitely check it out because it's gonna like it really does break. It opens doors and it breaks a lot of thought patterns, and it's really beautiful all in the same time. It's not like it's not folk for the sake of breaking pastiche. It's folk. It's like just everything melded together, and it's its own little just universe. And that's only one. I've only heard one track from you. That's the other mind bender. So does Featherburn have albums out or anything yet? Are you working on one?
We have 2 songs, and we're gonna like. I just told my my drummer has a gift and a passion for like sort of audio engineering. So he helped us record the 2 tracks that we have, but it took forever. And he's working as hard as he can. Everybody in life, we're all doing everything we can, Yeah. And I just called him the other day and I was like, dude, we gotta move faster than this. Like, let's call somebody, let's get some help, and let's make it happen, because I feel like the band is gaining momentum. I feel like the band, we're at the point where our music speaks very well now. Like we've been working, we've been honing, we've still got lots of time to go before we're just automatic, but I think our show is special. And I think that people talk about luck, and it's not my quote, but I gather that luck is when opportunity meets readiness. So I was like, we need to move fast because we're not ready for the next opportunity, So I just spoke with him yesterday about a gentleman up in Bloomsburg, because my band is in Pottsville, so I'm the one, I'm the asshole that's driving, and I'm going to be the asshole that's driving even another hour further to do it. But the idea is that we're going to move on getting into the studio very soon, like December.
Cool.
Yeah. And it's going to, that stuff takes forever. So it's not going to be in January. It's not going to be in February.
No, it'll be more like, I was going to say probably about April, May at the very earliest.
Something like that. But
fully mastered.
The idea is that we're going to come out with like a 5-song EP that I think will be very good, and we'll be able to, put it up on all the digital networks to have sort of a global reach, but also we'll have, hard copies at our show. And, that's the whole vision thing. Everybody, has a master plan for doing it, but it's in the works, but we're performing, like, we have a show, next week, some new collaborators and I, like my band, I was always, telling you over and over again about these 3 core members that are up in Pottsville, but 2 of them, are family men and they don't want to play more than twice a month. And I'm just like, we're going to be dead before people notice us if we only play twice a month. So we need to, and we limit ourselves to weekends, So like, just given the situation, I've, been recruiting and saying, hey, let's make this Featherburn kit, where I have like some performers that are ready to go for different situations. So I've been working with a keyboard player, Francois Byers. He plays with this gent. He's a great pianist, and he'll be glad I mentioned him. He plays with Bjorn Jacobson, and they're like sort of a gypsy thing. But he just moved to Lancaster and tagged me up, and I'm playing with Ian.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so we're readying him to be in the full ensemble. But with Ian, I have a gig this Wednesday with him and two other gentlemen. Alex Kados is he lives in Lancaster, and we just met at an open mic, and he was just sitting there drinking beers and you know, liked what he saw what Ian and I did at the open mic. So, you know, we just got in a conversation. He's a singer, and I'm like, well, hey, why don't you come and we'll just let's jam. And he's like just diligent about his work. He's ready to do whatever is happening. I'm just like blown away by the energy that this guy is just bringing to our rehearsals and our like idea land. And then I'm playing with this guy Sam Franz, who's just a musical genius. He can play any instrument you ask him to, and you know, I've given him the songs, and you know, he's playing bass for when my bass player isn't available. But then he'll get on some other instrument if we need him on another instrument. He'll play the same songs, you know what I mean? Because he's that good. So I've got super talented players that are like, we're having our first like full length gig on Wednesday with my drummer from Pottsville, Tim Jenkins, and these other three guys. Francois is not going to be there, but anyway, we're playing at McCleary's on Wednesday.
Oh, cool.
In Marietta, and it's our like test gig. They want to know if we can bring in some. That's the bottom line is like, how many people can you draw? If you can say, oh, I'll bring 25 people, they'll book you. You know what I mean? But if if you're a young band and you don't have a community yet, then they're like, well, we'll give you a Wednesday and see how you do. That's us. That's this Wednesday, 7:30 to 9:30.
Is McCleary's that pub that's down there on the corner, right down by the railroad tracks?
Yeah, there are two. There's Shanks and there's McCleary's. The Shanks is probably the one that's more on the corner. McCleary's is like, 2 doors down.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's not far off. That's exciting.
Yeah.
And I wondered how that worked out for your schedule and at your age, because like, if you're working as an adjunct professor, I feel like you have plenty of time.
Well,
I think you have more availability, and having a toolbox. That's such an inappropriate term, but having a lineup of people that you can, hey, this is the situation. Who can come up and do that?
Yeah.
You know, that's a wonderful way to do it.
It's taken a while to like actually like see it from just an idea. What is this situation warranting to drive the project forward? Okay, this is what we're going to have to do. And then I start sending out emails or posting on Facebook or not, Facebook or Craigslist or whatever, and just like sending out, this is what I'm looking for. And, again, crickets, like for the longest time. And then just gradually some more, it was more like I've gotten a lot from just meeting people as opposed to putting out on, Craigslist or anything like that. Relationships are I think the big thing that helps, and that means for my part, it's like getting out of the house, just getting off my ass and going in to an open mic, even though I don't know anybody there.
That's the biggest that's my biggest issue is that with this, like, I could throw up a something on a Facebook group, hey, come out and check it out, and it's like, I'd really love to go to open mic every night of the week just to hang out and meet people or go to shows more often, but like 70-hour work week, 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 a.m.
I see.
I'm not even back by last call, so it's like my engagement with the community is trying to get people to understand that, like, hey, come out, let's talk, let's hang out, tell me about your thing, and then other people will learn about it, because that's the cog that I can be in the machine as of right now.
Yeah, sure. It's a great cog. I mean, like, it's a wonderful way that you can offer a gift to your community, with the tools and the flexibility that you do have. I know there's a lot of, like, limitations that you're talking about, but this is a perfect way to take a creative energy and say, okay, what can I do with this here.
That's the biggest thing is like, and people, and like, I'll be, on a phone call like 11 o'clock at night, and people are like, why do you work so hard? Because I like to do it. It really does. It is such a, having a creative outlet of any sense is just, seriously, it makes the circle full. Like it really works out, because if you're not, I heard once somebody said that if you go home from work tired and do nothing, it's because it's because the job that you're at is not satisfying you creatively, and you need to find something to do about it. So like and that was somebody who works like 40 hours a week, and I was mesmerized that people like work 40 hours a week or less. And no, I don't mean that in an offensive way. I'm so used to this at this point. Like 70 hours a week's pretty standard. It just happens. So.
Yeah. Well, I hope you're putting away lots of money for retirement, like. Nope,
not a dime. I'm busy living. I'm that's the other thing is work to live, don't live to work. That's But anyhow, yeah. Did you want to? Before we call it an episode, did you want to play?
It's up to.
Well, it's up to you. We hit an hour and 26 minutes, and of course, I was supposed to go do something with my wife yesterday in York Springs, and I have to go do it today. Mm-hmm. So that's the only reason I didn't sit with you for 3 hours. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm thankful for the time. What do you think your audience like? Do they want to hear? I think, track?
I think with the fervor of this conversation, I think with your happiness and your excitement, I think you should definitely play one. Well, as soon as you're ready, feel free. And what are you gonna play, John?
I'm gonna play a song called Soul Machine.
Ooh.
Yep.
I dig it. All right. Well, I'm gonna snap a photo of you mid, so be prepared for a flash.
Okay.
Okay.
Machine turns and churns with splendor. It sends us falling into flesh so tender. We're carving marbles, breathing prayers into the air we breathe. The fortune-sick fugitives, hunger-strike refugees. Arm in arm, we're gifted, heaven sent hard, where we feel the ruts and rises, thrill to build and fill and carry. We sing the words carved deep within the funeral pyre, the only ones for miles. She said this one, it would be rough. Got a vision for the rocks on the other side of 500 billion. Blinks it up, back into the river. One and only you and I. There must be someone here we trust. Breathing rough with underwater kids divided. We made our love into this rust. We are the sun's daughter, souls tide turned bright. Soul machine rumbling gorgeous on the world we ride. The breath kite, bright light, whole heart hardwired. We're ghosts chosen for the post of a lifetime. We bring the ocean home, we paddle in and kill the fire. Eternity, she waits at ease. Found another finish line. The sleepless leaves, they wake the trees with gravity to feed the pyre. Raising hope for the spirits here and everywhere. The only ones who care. She said this one, it would be rough. Got a vision for the rocks on the other side of 500 billion. Blinks it up, back into the river. One and only you and I. There must be someone here we trust. Breathing rough with the underwater kids divided. We made our love into this rust. We are the sun's daughter, souls tide turned bright. Everybody's looking to be happy. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. It's why we make a big fuss, why we're standing in line, why we're waking up early, why we're saving our dimes, why we buy stuff, take stuff, make stuff, break stuff, change it all around and somehow put it all back together again. The sun comes up, the sun goes down, and we think of something new to try to help us feel proud. And the air is so sweet, the music and the sounds, but we're racing around the track for the first place cloud. The secret sits quiet while we're growing, while we're dying. A message hidden in every breath, in every birth, and every death. We get it, then we forget it. We see we can win or we can fail, we can try or we can bail, we can sing a song of hope, cry or we can fail, we can hold it or release, fight or keep the peace, start a revolution, ride a bike to stop pollution. We can move to the beat, march into the street, we can wrestle with the fear, we can love the ones we're near, we can burn inside, we can let it slide. She said this one, it would be rough. Got a vision for the rocks on the other side of 500 billion blinks and up back into the river. One and only you and I. There must be someone here we trust. Breathing rough with the underwater kids divided. We made our love into this rust. We are the sons, daughters, souls tied, turned right. One precious life. What do you plan to do with your one wild, precious life? Doesn't everything die too soon? Tell me, one precious life. We got one, we got one precious life. What do you plan to do with yours? She said this one, it would be rough.
Damn. Wow. That is beautiful. Absolutely. And you definitely hit that gypsy punk thing, and just, I did not expect that to be your singing voice at all, because you came across so bassy most of the time when you were speaking. And man, that's beautiful. And I'm definitely still learning the accordion, according to you. You just I don't know if I'll ever pick it up.
It's an
again.
ongoing battle, man. It's an ongoing. You just got to get in there.
Yeah, that's what it seems to be. Is like just learn it, do it, and get through it. Just keep trying. I saw the oddest thing in the entire world the other year. I was sitting in a warehouse in Jersey in the parking lot, and one of the other drivers just sitting there in the line pulled out a student accordion and sit in his truck cab playing accordion.
Yeah.
So, but that was beautiful. And you're gonna be Wednesday down at Wednesday 7:30 to 9:30 at McCleary's
in Marietta. And we've got a gig in New York, Mexitali.
Ooh.
But not until February. So February, I think 28th. We're playing at
you're gonna play the last day of the month at Mexitali. That's a good spot for you, because I'm not gonna use language that is offensive, but I mean that's definitely a good place for high-minded music fans.
Oh yeah. That guy Greg, he likes original music, you know. So like it's been a while. Like he told me a long time ago that that he when I asked him how to play, you know, if we could play there, he was like, you need 3 hours of original music. I was like, what?
Yeah, that's wow. Yeah, 3 hours of keeping people entertained. Ian had said something about that, because he does like all day stuff, and it's just him, and that's nuts. But awesome. Well, that's wonderful.
The 24th. I'm looking it up right now.
24th.
February 24th. Featherburn, Mexitali.
Cool, man. Well, I will make sure that I provide event links for everything in the show description and all that stuff. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Seriously enamored, and just impressed. Your fervor for existing is just so high, and it's wonderful. So I gotta remember to throw this extra microphone out. I just broke it.
Oh.
Yeah, it's one of those days.
Oh.
It's okay. Well, rest in peace, Church Mike. I think I've been talking about that since like episode 1. That
Church Mike.
Yeah, all the mics in here except for the 2 behind me on the case are like churchyard sale $5 vocal mics. They do the job. Yeah, that's the I want to break that fear for everybody. If you want to start a podcast, do it. Don't spend anything. You don't have to.
Oh, you just put your time in, huh?
Yeah, that's it. It's just time. And most creative things are like that, where it is just, if you're willing to give it your time, it will grow wherever it needs to grow, and it's not going to be a hit overnight ever.
No, yeah.
So just give it time and hang out with cool people like Milo.
Yeah.
You know,
Milo and John.
Yeah.
So. Well, thanks so much for like your platform. You know, it's great to have this tool, this. You can call it whatever you want to call it, but like for us, for artists, it's like a big it's a gift, to have some people that are willing to, and interested in like extending our voices, so it's a great service, and it's great for the community. I know, just like to have someone broadcasting, a conversation about art, a conversation about life, a conversation.
That's the and that's the other thing that I love is that it gives me the opportunity.
That was my chair.
Okay. No, I thought it was my phone buzzing. No, but it gives me the opportunity to explore other things and other topics, and especially around here, we have such a rich landscape of intellectuals and artists and musicians and poets and regular people. That's the other thing too, is that it gives me the ability to vault people that I sincerely respect and believe in that may not see it because I'm on the outside. That's it. Yeah, it's easier to give people, giving somebody a compliment is super fun. Giving somebody a place to just talk is even better. It's something that's there forever, and people just don't realize how radical they are and all the cool stuff that they do, and I think people should know about it. So it's super fun, but. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks,
I will walk you through the minefield of my dogs and their excitement. So, thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
I appreciate it.